incremental and how I pursued something in my life. And I realized that I had a grandfather in my life who, okay, I'm gonna mix up a bunch of things here, so you'll follow me, right? If I go this way and this way, I promise I'll bring you back. I remember watching with Rita's face when I would be working with her, and I was like, it will all come together at the end, I promise you. But it will make sense, so we weave it back around. Okay, so my grandfather he actually did not finish high school. He was one of 13 kids. He lived in a farm community in Iowa, and they all played a musical instrument. He played the fiddle. All learned it by ear. No one ever taught them. Did not have lessons. There was nothing formal in their lives. They played the piano, they played violin, the fiddle, all the whatever was necessary for playing for the family, and then they would play for dances in the community. And he used to say things to me like when I was 7 years old and I was sick, and they came over, my grandparents came over to see me, and I had my little, I'm a visual, I remember things in visual pictures. Anybody else? Like, I'm actually a clothes person, even from when I was a little girl. Like, I remember what I had on. And when they walked in the door, I was sitting in the chair, and he came right over to me, and he stood me up, and he said, I want to know why you grabbed onto that sickness, because it was just going right by you. And you reached out and pulled it to you. And I remember thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. He would say things to me that I would just question, but I didn't ever ask questions. I just kind of took it in, but it stayed in me because he had just a different way of viewing the world, a different way of understanding how things worked, and it was fascinating to me because my mom was raised with that, so she also had an understanding of that things in your life do not have to happen by step by step by step by step, that God is a God of multiplication, and that he creates movements. That's where momentum comes from. It is something that causes more to happen beyond your touch, because your touch had an anointing on it. So he taught me how to visualize. When I was swimming, he went to the swimming pool with me for some reason, and I love to swim, and I could go off the low dive, but I couldn't go off the high dive because I was afraid of heights. And he recognized it right away, and he set me down beside the pool, and he said, why can't you go off the high dive? And I said, I don't know, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't like it, I don't know. And he said, well, you're not afraid of drowning. There are other kids around here that are afraid of drowning. You're not afraid of drowning. So why are you afraid of height? Why are you afraid of up there? You're not afraid of down here, but you are afraid of there. So I want you to question your fear, because your fear is not accurate. Your fear is preconceived. And even though it is a fear, even though it's not rational, it's not logical, it's still a fear, yes? Right. And that fear still is a reality, so to speak, until we realize that we can break it down and cause it to not be a reality, that we do have control of being able to do that. We just don't always know that we have control of that. So he said, sit down, close your eyes. He actually did that. So this is what's so remarkable to me about Mary Kay Ash. There's so many pieces of my life that came together from things that happened in my childhood. So he sat down in front of me, he took my hands, just like Mary Kay used to take her hands. And he said, close your eyes. And so I closed my eyes, and he said, keep your eyes closed, and I want you to see yourself in your mind walking over to the high dive. And then I want you to put yourself there in your mind, walking to the high dive. And I want you to feel the heat of the cement under your feet? Can you feel the heat of the cement? And I said, He said, now go over there and put your hand on the aluminum bar. Can you feel it? And can you feel it? Then put your foot on the sandy step. Pull yourself up. Can you feel pulling yourself up? Up and up and up and up. And when you get to the top, look over. Can you see the water? And I said, yes. And he said, now walk off the diving board and jump in and feel the water. And then come right up. And then swim to the side. Open your eyes. Close your eyes. Do it again. He did it with me 3 times. And then he said, now get up and go. And I got up and I went up the board and I went into the water. And when I came out of the water, he was on the side of the pool going, oh! Totally embarrassing the whole time. Like, he was so excited. So he said, don't forget what that feels like. That is you conquering your fear. Don't forget what that feels like, because you can repeat that. So he would have me visualize myself ice skating, visualize myself, whatever it was, if you can see it in your mind and you can elevate your emotion to the point that you actually can smell it, touch it, taste it, be there, then the reality that connects with how God created our world is just like the vibration of our words, just like the power that comes from the fact that we declare things out loud. When we do those kinds of things, it actually causes things to, it's like a ripple effect. It causes things to connect. It causes doors to open. It causes orchestration. However, the orchestration is the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, of course, he resides within us, but we send him forward when we say things out loud. So when we say it and we visualize it, we're using the senses that cause something to become a reality in our mind before it's an actual reality in our life. But that's why when we have a goal, if we visualized it 100 times, once it happens, it feels like we've already lived it, because over and over and over and over again, we saw it. It became our normal. So the question is, what are you creating as a normal? Sorry. Now, the incremental part of it, that really is so important, is that Jan Harris was obviously definitely the right person for me. God put me in her arms. The woman who recruited me into Mary Kay was a director, and she was not necessarily mentally healthy. And she was actually had an issue with alcohol, the woman who recruited me. And I'm only telling you this because when I came into Mary Kay, my mindset was, I love the philosophy of this company. It wasn't really that I saw the money as an answer, it was that I saw the atmosphere and the environment of this company as aligning with my heart. Like when Karen sat in front of me and she talked to me about this Mary Kay woman and she showed me pictures in her recruiting notebook, she said this woman believes in praising women to success. This woman believes that every woman has potential, and that she looks for the potential in those women, and then she treats them according to the potential, not according to their performance, according to what's possible. And she treats them that way, and they will rise up as a result of that. We rise up based on how we're treated, how someone perceives us, so she created the environment of Mary Kay to treat us like queens, to put us on thrones, to allow us to walk across stages and wave in the spotlight and the recognition and the fun and the gloriousness, all of the things that cause us to realize that there's more inside of us than we thought was inside of us. Because you know how you just, like, the first time when people are walking across the stage and you're like, well, that looks like fun, but then you do it and you're like, like, I have to do it again. I remember when I walked down those steps for the first time and those men were lined up on that staircase, and every other staircase, like they're passing your hand down to the next man, and you're waving and you get down to the end of the steps and you're like, I want to go back up again. That was amazing. Those experiences that, where else would you have that experience? How many women would have had an experience like that? But she created that for all of us to understand that it's a piece of what we were born for. We were born to be treated in a way that infused a worthiness. So we are worthy because we're worthy of his love, we are worthy of his time, we are worthy of communion, relationship, because he created us. And since he created us, he loves us because he designed us. So when we allow ourselves to feel the love, because that's it, it's an allowing. It's we allow ourselves to feel that. We allow ourselves to feel that, believe that, put ourselves in that place. So when I went to, I remember Dr. Baxter, who lives in Tulsa, and he does coaching. His wife Diane is the Cadillac sales director. First time I met him, he said, I want to tell you a story about why I know who Mary Kate Ash is to all of you. He said, Diane, we were at seminar at Diane, we just had a baby, Diane was nursing, and I was supposed to bring baby from the hotel to the convention center. She could go into the bathroom, she could nurse baby, and then I would take baby back. And he said, so I came with Aaron, and Diane came out, and I passed her off to Diane, and she said, why don't you go ahead and sit in my seat, because Mary Kate's gonna come out in just a little bit, so go sit in my seat. So he went and sat in the seat, and he said Mary Kate came out and started to speak and talk about dreams. He'd been a pastor for 25 years at that point in time. And he said, I sat in that seat and I started to cry. So, her anointing was sometimes it didn't even matter what she was talking about. It was how it affected us.
Right.
And he said, I walked out when she was done speaking, and Diane was waiting for me, and I had tears running down my face, and I said, she told me to dream a new dream, and I have a dream for a very long time. And Mary Kay said, a dream, and I have a dream. There's a dream that I have. We'll talk about her dream. Like the release of what it was that he was supposed to receive in her presence. And that there could have been someone standing right next to her talking about the same thing, and it would have not been received as it was because of the sound of her voice. So understanding that the sound of our voice is actually infiltrated with the purity of our love for the people who are in front of us. So what I understood from my director taught me some really important, she taught me some strategic things. And then when she kind of left the company, then I moved up as a first line to Jan Harris. So I became a director as an offspring of my director. She taught me that first thing she said to me was, you can do this business with hobby hours and a hobby mentality and you'll make some money. But you do this business with hobby hours and a business mentality and you can make a whole lot of money. It's not the time, it's the mentality. It's how you look at it, it's where you believe it can take you and what you can do with it that's gonna make all the difference. And so she said, if you will pay attention, if you will learn from me, I will show you exactly what you can do to multiply your business. So when I started, she said, here's these pearl earrings, and you think of 3 of your friends, we'll sit down, I will share the Mary Kay opportunity. See, I think we get hung up on marketing plan. Marketing plan, you can say marketing plan, but when we think that we're trying to convince someone of something or we're trying to recruit someone, even when we worry that that's what it feels like on the other end, then a result of that causes there to be a diminished capacity as to what is coming across to that person. So she said, I want you to choose 3 women, and I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna share with them all about the information, the opportunity of Mary Kay, just like I did with you. And I'm gonna have them ask me questions, because if they do that, they will think of questions that you didn't ever think of. And that session right there will be an educational environment. You will learn more about the marketing plan from other people asking me questions than you would learn just trying to study this marketing plan. So you're gonna say to them, my director told me my very first assignment in my training is to select 3 of my friends who I love to spend time with and have you sit down. She will go through information, have you ask questions, but she will not try to recruit you. Would you help me out? And I had 3 friends who sat down and listened. And I realized that she explained the marketing plan, but she explained things different with each person based on questions they asked, and then the answers she gave and their reactions. She shifted and changed. She was an amazing communicator because she was listening and she was caring about how to make this understandable for them. So it would mesh with their life. And so I watched 3 different friends who came to it in a completely different, and had a whole education. Because I took notes on every single thing that went on. I didn't recruit any of those friends, but one of my friends' her name was Vanessa, and she said, I'm not interested, but my mom would be great at this. And her mom's name was Marilyn. She was in insurance. And we sat down with Marilyn the next day, because Karen was like, we're not gonna wait a week. Why would we wait a week? We're gonna go home, because we didn't have cell phones, and call Marilyn, and we're gonna sit down with her, and then, you'll get, you already got your pearl earrings for 3 women. You'll get your pearl bracelet when you have 3 more. So Marilyn will be your number 4, and toward your 6th. And so we sat down with Marilyn. She became a consultant right there. And I watched Karen say to Marilyn, very first assignment, before your starter kit gets to the front door, is to think of 3 friends. Very first assignment. I watched her create multiplication right there. She did that with me. I watched her do it with her. And then I did my other 2 so I could get my bracelet, and I had another recruit. So I had Marilyn was my first recruit, got my pearls assuring that I got another recruit. Then I watched that Marilyn got a recruit. So sitting at my success meeting on the front row, because I had little pencils with little ribbons on them, because I was a school teacher. So of course, I was gonna have little goodies on the seats right next to me. So there was Marilyn with her new recruit, and then there was my other recruit, her name was Jane, and also she didn't have a new recruit yet. The next week she had 2, because Karen did her 3 marketing plans. And then so our entire row of that meeting went from me to 10 other people in the next 3 weeks. I watched that happen. That gave me a prescription for how to not only, so here's what I also discovered. A woman who has a recruit on her team gets more excited than someone who has 50 customers. Because a recruit is validating the decision she made to become a consultant. And she's joining her, and the power of that validation and that excitement of that new person on her team, whether she gets another new person ever again or not, that one new person. And who knows how long that kinetic energy is gonna happen, but the benefit is it does happen. So when you've got kinetic energy going on with this new person and that new person and that new person, what happened, because she worked with me in that capacity, is that her success meetings went from being quiet and not a lot of things happening to all of a sudden they were explosive and exciting, because we didn't know that. We didn't know that there hadn't been anything exciting happening. She'd had some challenges in her life with her drinking, and with me it was like a renewed possibility. This person is in it with me. So that, okay, am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you hearing?
Do your personal sharing first.
Do the three, get the three people.
And the 3 people.
But you know, I think what's different, because you've told me that several times. I'm in a place where I was ready to receive. But I think that the difference factor is we're not getting them, we're not trying to recruit them.
Right.
This is an educational experience for them.
Exactly.
That was powerful. Because they do think, or we think that they think, that we just want to recruit a bunch of people for them.
Right.
But just that little twist of this is an educational experience for you, that's like a game changer.
Yes, it is.
And I
Thank
love
you.
that's the history, the Mary Kay history. It's repeatable, and it's so smart. So valid.
I love
It
that.
is. The expectation.
Yeah, this is what we do.
This is,
So you did it, and she's following your children to do it, and before you know it, you went from one to ten.
exactly.
Because
It is so true. And it is and her words were, because we were in Nebraska, so it would take about a week or so for our starter kid to get there. So she'd say, we're gonna do this before your starter kid gets here, we're gonna do your 3. So it was as soon as possible. And so here's the other part of this, I think, and this carried through in everything that I learned, which was communication. When we don't communicate, then you leave too much room for assumption. So the communication was, and make sure you tell them that she's not going to try to recruit you. Then what she said when she started it is, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to do this to help Stacy with her training. Because I am gonna share with you all this great information about this company. And yes, we would love it if you would love the company and get as excited about it as we are. But I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. I'm just gonna share the information with you. And the more questions that you can think of, the more beneficial this will be for her. So be thinking of questions as we go through it, which caused them to listen more intently to the marketing plan because they were thinking of questions to ask. And also the thing that she had is I've got that dual marketing plan sheet. She gave them a sheet, I had a sheet, she had a sheet, it's like a worksheet. And we wrote on the worksheet and she wrote on the worksheet, and the new person wrote on the worksheet, and she would say, this is so you have something to take home with you. Because I'll go through the numbers, I want you, when you write out the numbers, then you're retaining it, or it makes sense to you. Then when you're watching someone point to 50% on a notebook or a picture, or just say it, we just even say it at guest event, 50%. Then they're 50% of what? Of what? She would write down, an average class was $200. And if you can do 1 to 3 parties a week, that's considered part-time, 1 to 3 parties a week. So I'm gonna give you 3, just so you know. So 200 times 3 is 600, and since we make 50%, that would be $300 that you would have made because of that time and that effort that you put in. Now today, parties and classes are like, whoa, way more than that. And averages can be $500, $700, $1,000, can be whatever you want to put into that. But what you're doing is you're showing them how, because they don't understand how it works. And we assume that 50% is pretty easy to understand, but if you don't know how that's gonna work. So it is, so every time you write something down and they write something down, then you're actually casting a prescription for success. And that's why I love to go more into depth when I do the marketing plan. It's not the numbers as much as it makes sense to them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I discovered, I had a friend of mine who did a dual marketing plan sheet, and then she wrote out a bunch of she wrote little spaces in there for them to write. A party is 200, and then you do 3 of them. And this, what I learned though, if there's spaces, they're filling in a blank. If there's no space, they are they're writing down what I'm explaining. And So it's like taking notes in a history lesson. Or even at church when pastor has you fill the blanks in, I don't learn as much when I fill in the blanks as when I take my own notes, because my own interpretation is going into the notes. So what would happen when I took my worksheet home, my husband was waiting for me at the door, like, so how was it? Well, no, when I became a consultant, he didn't even know I was having lunch yet. Like, he thought I was having lunch with a friend and I was getting recruited. And I walked in and said, guess what? Lowered it, like, what? So you left here and you came back and now you are a beauty consultant. What? You didn't have a facial, you've never even excused this, like, wow. So he's asking me all those questions and I was like, so I can take the little sheet and go, okay, let me explain this to you. Because I had the little sheet. And we went through the little sheet together, and he was like, well, that's pretty cool. I said, I know. And so he said, well, yeah, if I don't give you the $85 or I don't let you find the $85 and I say no to you, then at some point in time you're gonna say, if we were in Mary Kay, we'd be so I'm better than that one. So yes, let's figure it out. However, I had to waitress to get the money for the $85 for the starter kit. So I had to, but I knew in my heart that I was supposed to do this, because when she told me about this woman who believed in the potential of others, and she did not believe in constructive criticism. That was the word that, so when you said that, Diane, did remember that she said that to you? Karen to this day does not remember that she said that to me. That Mary Kay Ash did not believe in constructive criticism. That was what I needed to hear. So who knows if she did say it or not say it, but I heard it. So I heard it. So the other part of that is I stopped worrying about doing marketing plans perfectly, because if God was in it, they would hear what they needed to hear. Because constructive criticism was my thing, because I was teaching school. And I had teachers around me who believed in telling the kids everything they did wrong, instead of anything they did right. And I would watch their little hearts just become diminished, because they would feel less than, because it was pointed out. So I made a pact with myself that I was always going to focus on everything I could see that they did right and bring it to their attention. And so that when she said that, I'm like, here is a company who thinks like I think, operates like I operate. Like this is exactly what I need to do. So the incremental thing, this is the other benefit of the incremental thing, is that at that point in time when you wanted to become a DIQ, the only women who counted were the women you personally recruited, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So the other women stayed with the parent unit. And I remember, and I know that can be a challenge in some situations, but my dad said to me, because my dad bought into my grandfather's mentality. He was a home builder, and he built homes with the intention of blessing people. And he had a visualization that went along with that. So he said to me, I don't want you to worry about anything that looks like you're going to miss out on income in this marketing plan.
Say that again?
I don't want you to worry about anything that looks like you're gonna miss out on income with this marketing plan. Because he took the dollar bill and the 50% and the 50%, and he said, now Mary Kay, out of the company's profit, is gonna pay you 4% commission, and at that point in time, so 9%, you do it, and 13% is gonna come out of the company's profit that you're gonna make. So what I'm seeing is that she could have given you the 20%, and she could have given you 30%, but she chose to give you 50. This is a woman who did not create this marketing plan so she would become rich. She created this marketing plan so that you would become rich.
Wow, that's powerful. So good.
And everything in this builds something strong for you, even if your recruits do not stay with you. Because he understood how the process of that would go. Because he would ask me questions, and then I would ask Karen questions, and I bring it back. Okay, so what he told me is, if you go into DIQ with 8 women who are excited about building a business, so they're becoming a consultant for the sake of a vital business. They're becoming a consultant and they're gonna get inventory, because I figured out a way to get inventory. They are going to have recruits themselves right away, because Karen is setting that up so that they will, but also you're gonna encourage that. You're gonna be the person behind that, because everybody who goes with you into DIQ, those 8 women, the ones who have recruits are going to keep recruiting. If they have one, they're gonna wanna be a red jacket when you go into DIQ. If they're a red jacket, they're gonna wanna be a team leader when you go into DIQ. So the ones who don't have recruits when you go into DIQ, it doesn't mean they won't, but they will be less likely to recruit. So you want your women recruiting right away, and you want, because you want success for them. Leadership is that you're setting your team up for their success, just like Mary Kay set us up for our success. She did not just recruit lots of people so that her company would grow and make lots of money for her. She created this company for us, right? I mean, she wouldn't have even started this if it weren't for the sake of women having a company that had no limitations, an environment and an atmosphere of support and encouragement, so that we could believe in ourselves and see greater things. So the whole intention of why she did everything was to serve us and to further God's kingdom. But if we only recruit women on our team for a number, get to 8 and go in. So when the company says get to 8 and go in, that is always so hard on me. Because it's not about qualifications, it's about building something. And when we do something to fulfill qualifications, then we're just putting little markers in there. They're people, but they're markers. When you are leading, when you are bringing women into this company for the sake of them benefiting and for them to be blessed, and you set them up for success. So whenever I taught about inventory, I also said, when you are sharing inventory with somebody, you gotta know for sure in your heart that you believe this is the best thing for them, because I do. I believe it's the best thing for them to have inventory. And I know they can't lose any money, and I know that they're going to, if they do a party and they've got the product there and they sell it to them and they got their hands on it immediately, then the excitement and the energy and the adrenaline and the attachment, all of that thing works to our greatest benefit. If they don't have it and they're not gonna, I remember Nathan Morris saying to me one time, but they could start with the 600, and I said, and tell me how they're gonna make money. Like, just explain it to me how you would perceive that someone would start with $600 worth of inventory and actually make money. At the first, they would take everything they sold and they would reinvest it in inventory. So they would get inventory on their shelf, and then they would sell it and invest in, get more inventory, and then they would sell it and they would get more inventory. If they didn't do that, they would never be at a place where at some point in time, they've got a stock of product on their shelf and they're taking their 50% commission. And they can still take profit, but then they're always gonna be running around delivering stuff and not, yes? I mean, so it's understanding if you know that the advice you're giving someone, it's not for the sake of someone starting with the 2400, because then there's your car production, or then there's your production for what, if you know it's for the sake of what's best for them, there's a whole, that's where the trust is built. So, one, understanding the communication. Two, making sure that you know in your heart of hearts that the advice that you give is for the benefit of them, not for the benefit of you.
That's right.
And they can feel it, and they will know it, and you will, and it will flourish as a result of that. So Mary Kay went from 9 women that she recruited that were not random. So this is the other part. So the 9 women that she started with were not random. She chose women that thought like she thought, had the same mentality that she had, the same work ethic that she had, and they linked arms and they had a mission and a ministry all together, those 9 women. So you don't, when you have someone on your team who is loud and rude and abrasive, and I know in the past people go, well, she needs to be a director because she wants to do her own thing, she wants to be in control of it. Like, no, don't promote someone who's loud and rude and abrasive, because leadership is not about being abrasive.
Right.
And selling product really well is not the same skills as being a really good leader.
Right.
So because you have someone in your unit who sells a ton of product, that is awesome. If she doesn't want to be a director, because she's got her niche, and she's got her prescription, and she has her customers, and she owns her business, and she's loving it, and she doesn't have an ambitious desire to be a director. So causing a movement of directors is not creating a desire in someone's heart to be a leader that isn't there. It's either there or it's not. Now, sometimes you discover it when you didn't think it was there, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I am good at this. This would be something that was great. But if you look at your unit and you look at all the sellers, that doesn't necessarily mean those are the women who are going to be the best leaders. The best leaders are those who have an ambitious heart to serve others, and to lead others, and to communicate with others, and to believe in others, and to see the best in others. And that, so if you teach your DIQs how to do the 3 marketing plans with every single new person, when they go into DIQ, they will generate the numbers. So I'm gonna throw a couple of questions out really fast that are meant to boggle your mind. They're meant to boggle your mind. So if it sounds like I'm being sacrilegious, I'll just apologize right now, because I kinda am. Okay, so what if you went into DIQ and you could not sell any product to do production?
Oh, wow. That's not good.
How would you do it?
Show the opportunity.
You would definitely get good at sharing inventory.
Inventory and the opportunities. So those women would be, inventories would count, obviously, but so would the sale of, so the production would be done by the women on your team, not by you.
You would teach them to actually work the business versus just doing help you out.
So you're recruiting vital business owners. And what if you couldn't personally recruit anybody yourself?
The people
Each
that
other's.
you have would truly believe in the business and would want to duplicate that. You wouldn't have to do any convincing.
And you would be doing the marketing plans with them to get them to Red Jacket. Now, I did market, so when I had a brand new person, I would get the 3 names and numbers, and I would call them and I would set up the time so the 3 of us could do it. Because a brand new person is not usually gonna call and do that, so I would do that. But once they got to Red Jacket status, they brought me people. I would do marketing plans with them, but I didn't call and initiate and set them up. By that point, they're showing me that they're ambitious enough to want to get to team leader. Does that make sense? And some never will. They won't even want to bring you someone. They won't even bring a guest to a meeting. They won't, so that shows you right there. But if they're going to call you and say, I have a person and I want to bring her for lunch, and yes, so I would do marketing plans with them until they got into DIQ. And the reason why I did is because that was their training ground. When they watched, because I did that with Karen, I watched her do all those marketing plans with me till I went into DIQ, and I learned the ins and outs, every question, every answer, every direction, how she responded. And so by the time that happened, then I knew I was ready to do the marketing plans myself when I went into DIQ. So it's not that the prescription of you not doing any of those things is necessary, but when you think about it, the opposite is what's being taught. So a DIQ goes in and you say to her, just get ready to be responsible for selling all the product for the production you need. And be willing to recruit all the people necessary, personally, to wrap this up. The willingness is a good thing, but there's no leadership that's being taught. It's only personal work, personal activity, so they're not helping the women in their unit expand and grow. They're driving it all themselves to do that. Yes, makes sense.
It really doesn't make them strong directors because they're not strong leaders. So building your the leadership skills, it will follow you, and eventually you will get you.
So the
Stacey,
intent.
tell me anything about energy that you talked about. Like when we invest all our energy into our personal work, we all quote on us as our perception. We only have so much energy. So then we able to lead others. That part.
Right, okay. Yeah, because leadership is a different kind of energy than selling the product. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it means that you are, so physically, to me, it's way easier to recruit physically, because when you do parties, or even when you're doing Zooms and selling product, that is a lot of, but, so physically, to me, it's easier. However, interpersonally, meaning, if I'm gonna do a marketing plan, there's gotta be an exchange of conversation. And I need to be listening to what you're saying and asking questions and positioning things so that you can see how this will be beneficial to you. That's an area of leadership that most women are not comfortable with. Yes? However, if you want to be a leader and you want to be a director and wear the suit, and you want to, so you don't become a director just to wear the suit, and you don't become a director just to have the title. You become a director because you know that what's going to happen from that point on is it's going to continue to grow. So your plan is that you have vital women in your unit so that it continues to build and grow. So it's not for just the intention of hitting that place. So as a leader, it is more you're pouring into, listening to, and having conversation with. However, the benefit of those skills, is lifts the level of the quality of your life in every other aspect of your life. Because when you learn to become a good communicator, then you can communicate with your son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, you can communicate with your neighbors, you can communicate with the person at school who is creating an issue that you need to be an advocate for your child. You learn communication skills that are always going to benefit the foundation of any area. Because we know that the greatest problems in this world happen because of insecurities. and the lack of conversation.
Right.